Tonight, the deadly shooting outside a Jewish museum in the nation's capital. Two staffers from the Israeli embassy, a young couple about to be engaged, gunned down. The alleged killer captured shouting "Free Palestine." The incident being investigated as an act of terror and a hate crime. What we're learning about the suspect, plus what the victim's father told us about the couple's love story. The fiery plane crash into a California neighborhood, cars and homes up in flames. What we're learning about those on board killed when the small jet crashed. Plus, the Trump administration says Harvard can no longer enroll new international students, and current ones will need to transfer or lose their legal status. Harvard calling the move unlawful. Our Tom Yamas with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., whose new report calls this generation of American children the sickest in the country's history. And fire up the barbecue, the new Kansas City Museum celebrating smokers and spice and everything nice about one of the country's most iconic cuisines.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. They were among a group of young professionals set on becoming part of the solution in a troubled region, gathered at an event last night focused on building bridges in the Mideast and North Africa. But as they exited Washington's Capitol Jewish Museum, the young couple, a man and woman, both Israeli embassy staffers, fell victim to violence far from the Middle East, gunned down by a man who police say shouted "Free, free Palestine," and declaring he did it for Gaza as he was taken into custody. The case being investigated tonight as a possible hate crime and terror attack. The victims, Yaron Lashinsky and Sarah Milgram, fatally struck by gunfire. The pair, who had been dating, were set to become engaged soon, according to the Israeli ambassador. The shooter, a Chicago man, now facing 2 counts of first-degree murder. President Trump posting online, hatred and radicalism have no place in the USA. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu calling the suspect an abhorrent anti-Semitic murderer. Aaron Gilchrist has late details.
The horror unfolded around 9 last night.
Response 1, active shooter 30, Africa Foxtrot Street Northwest.
A group of people leaving a young diplomat's reception at the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington when a gunman opened fire. 26-year-old Sarah Milgram and her partner, 30-year-old Yaron Lashinsky, both diplomatic staff at the Israeli embassy, were killed. Tonight, it's being investigated as a targeted terror attack.
The tragic murder of these 2 Israeli embassy employees outside of the Capitol Jewish Museum last night was both an act of terror and directed violence against the Jewish community, and it has the full and unwavering attention of the FBI.
The alleged gunman, 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez, shouted "Free Palestine" as he was taken into police custody.
Free, free Palestine!
He's now facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder and murder of foreign officials. Today, the FBI is searching his Chicago apartment.
Violence against anyone based on their religion is an act of cowardice.
President Trump posting, "Hatred and radicalism have no place in the USA." Witnesses say it was a rainy night, and after firing the shots, the alleged gunman rushed into the museum.
All of a sudden, we start hearing what sounds like gunshots.
The people inside had no idea what he had allegedly done and offered him a glass of water.
We're just thinking he's a witness, frazzled, and trying to comfort him.
When did you realize that he wasn't just a witness, that he was involved?
I would say it was about 10 minutes later when he started yelling to the entire museum, "I did it. Free Palestine, I did it for Gaza."
Tonight, Israel's prime minister speaking out.
The terrorists who cruelly gunned them down did so for one reason and one reason alone. He wanted to kill Jews. And as he was taken away, he chanted, "Free Palestine." This is exactly the same chant we heard on October 7th.
The attack comes amid an alarming rise in anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S., soaring nearly 900% in the last decade. Meanwhile, we're learning more about the 2 victims.
We had perfect children. No problems. And not between parents. Couldn't say that.
In 2017, Sarah Milgram spoke to our station in Kansas City when her high school was vandalized with anti-Semitic graffiti.
I worry about going to my synagogue, and now I have to worry about safety at school, and that shouldn't be a thing.
Sarah's dad telling us he only found out last night that Yaron was going to propose.
Yaron had bought an engagement ring for Sarah and planned on giving it to her when they were in Jerusalem, about a week or 2 from now, which we did not know. So it was the best of times and the worst of times.
Aaron joining us now. Aaron, police were out there at the site of the shooting most of the day.
Mostly for security, Lester, as the investigation continues. We know they recovered a handgun and 21 spent shell casings here on the ground outside the museum. Meanwhile, there is a vigil tonight to remember the two victims. Lester?
Okay, Aaron, thank you. Let's bring in Tom Winter now on the investigation into the suspect. Tom, what have you learned?
Well, Lester, we have new details on the weapon tonight. Court documents allege Rodriguez bought the gun in Illinois in 2020 and brought it to D.C. in his checked luggage. On Tuesday, the FBI is also investigating online writings, possibly from Rodriguez, saying he carried out this attack because of his views on the Israel-Hamas war. They're now combing through his phone and reaching out to his family. Meanwhile, officials in Washington say they're ramping up their police presence at public gatherings citywide. Here in New York, highly trained teams of heavily armored police are now deployed to many Jewish institutions. Lester?
All right, Tom Winter, thank you for that. Tonight, investigators at the site of a deadly crash as they try to determine what happened after a plane crashed into a California neighborhood, killing multiple people and causing homes and cars to catch fire. Liz Kreutz is there.
Tonight, dramatic images show the fiery aftermath of a deadly plane crash in San Diego.
We have multiple explosions over there. We're doing evacuation. We got multiple houses on fire.
The fire department confirming at least 2 people died and 8 injured after a private Cessna jet crashed into a neighborhood of military housing.
I just walked it myself, and down the street itself, it looks like something from a movie, I'll be honest.
The crash happened around 3:45 this morning as the plane was attempting to land at a small nearby airport during dense fog with limited visibility.
Anyone over there?
Videos show families with young children and pets escaping their homes.
Come on, let's go!
Let's go!
Go!
I thought, oh my gosh, another earthquake, and when I opened my eyes, my whole room was lit up in orange, and I turned around to look out the window, and all I saw was a burst of flames behind my house.
According to flight tracking data, the plane took off from Teterboro Airport in New Jersey before midnight, briefly stopping to refuel in Wichita, Kansas, then lifting off again for San Diego.
It struck power lines about 2 miles southeast of the airport. Then collided with a house.
Tonight, a representative for Sound Talent Group saying 3 of their employees were killed on the plane, including co-founder and music agent Dave Shapiro, writing, "We are devastated by the loss."
And Lester, this is the home the plane crashed into. Officials say a family was inside, and it's a miracle that nobody on the ground here was killed. The FAA is now saying there were 6 people on that plane, and while the investigation continues, authorities do not believe there were any survivors. Lester?
All right, Liz Kreutz, thank you. Now to a major escalation in the standoff between the Trump administration and Harvard University. The administration blocking the school's ability to enroll international students. Harvard is calling the move unlawful. NBC's Garrett Hake now with that story.
Tonight, the Trump administration escalating its battle with Harvard University, barring the school from enrolling foreign students and ordering the more than 6,700 currently enrolled to transfer or lose their legal status.
27% of their students are foreign students, and they will have to find some other university to go to, and hopefully they find one that cares about them and provides a safe environment.
The White House saying Harvard has become a, quote, hotbed of anti-American, anti-Semitic, pro-terrorist agitators, adding the university now must face the consequences of their actions.
This should be a warning to every other university to get your act together.
Harvard calling the government's action unlawful, adding, "We are fully committed to maintaining Harvard's ability to host our international students and scholars."
It's saddening and it's stressful.
Carl Molden is a Harvard student from Austria studying government.
Do you think you'll be back at Harvard in the fall?
It's hard to make a call, I hope. I'm uncertain. I think with this administration, anything can happen.
In April, the administration froze more than $2 billion in federal grants to Harvard over what the White House said were concerns about unchecked anti-Semitism on campus and demands to change hiring and admissions processes. The university's president pressed by Lester last month.
Is this really about anti-Semitism?
I would say that at Harvard, we have a real problem with anti-Semitism. We take it very seriously, and we're trying to address it. We don't really see the relationship to research funding at Harvard and other universities. They are 2 different issues.
And Garrett Hake joining us now from the White House. And Garrett, the Trump administration is asking for Harvard student records.
That's right, Lester. DHS says the university now has 72 hours to turn over disciplinary, criminal, and protest records for all students over the last 5 years if they hope to see this order reverse. Harvard says it's working on guidance for its foreign students. Lester?
Garrett Haig, thank you. Now to that big win for President Trump, a sweeping bill with much of his domestic agenda passing the House. But tonight there's a new battle brewing with some Senate Republicans speaking out against it. Ryan Nobles has late details.
Tonight, a major victory for President Trump after his signature legislative package cleared a big hurdle, narrowly passing the House early this morning. Speaker Mike Johnson making good on a promise to pass the bill before the holiday weekend.
The House has passed generational, truly nation-shaping legislation to reduce spending and permanently lower taxes for families and job creators.
The massive 1,000-page bill delivers a slew of President Trump's campaign promises, including extending $4.5 trillion in tax cuts passed in the first Trump administration, eliminating income taxes on tips and overtime, and provides billions of dollars in funding for the border wall and mass deportations. It also makes changes to Medicaid, imposing work requirements for the able-bodied adults without dependents in order to stay on the program. Democrats oppose it, saying it will lead to millions losing health coverage.
This day may very well turn out to be the day that House Republicans lost control of the United States House of Representatives.
But the bill now faces a rocky path in the Republican-held Senate.
The Senate's going to want to put its own stamp on this. We'll write our own version of the bill.
Senate Republicans can only lose 2 votes, and GOP senators are already saying the bill does not cut spending enough.
We are stealing from our children and grandchildren, and that's why there's no way I'm going to vote for this bill in its current form.
And lawmakers have set a goal of passing this bill out of the Senate by the 4th of July, but many senators today admitting that may be a bit of an ambitious timeline. Lester?
Ryan Nobles, thank you. The Supreme Court today sidestepping a major decision about the separation of church and state. The justices' deadlock split 4-4, which means Oklahoma will not be able to move forward with the nation's first religious public charter school. The court did not disclose how the justices voted, but Justice Amy Coney Barrett was recused. Now to a highly anticipated report out today from President Trump's Make America Healthy Again Commission. On the health of America's children, Tom Yamas just spoke with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who spearheaded the report.
All this stuff we hear. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. by President Trump's side today, unveiling a long-awaited new report that calls today's kids, quote, the sickest generation in American history, identifying 4 major causes: ultra-processed foods, environmental toxins, lack of exercise and high stress, and the overprescribing of medicines.
How are you going to get food companies to change the way they do business?
Well, you know, I brought the food companies in 2 weeks after I came into office. And I got a lot of them at that point, that early on, to agree that they were going to do something about it.
But Senator, what does that mean?
I'm answering your question. I'm answering your question. They said to us, but we need alternative vegetables-based dyes. So we have acted very quickly. We have fast-tracked the approval already last week of 3 new vegetable-based dyes that will allow them to transition to using dyes in their foods that are not petroleum-based synthetic dyes. The report mirrors many of RFK's priorities, including calling for more scrutiny of vaccines and a review of pesticides. But it offers little in the way of concrete solutions.
In the spirit of government efficiency, why not give us a 70-page report of solutions? Because you know you could have written this on day 1.
Well, this is the first time in history that there's been, you know, my uncle tried to do this in 1962. This is the first time in history that all of government has come out with a consensus document that all the cabinet officials agree on. And that says we are in an existential crisis now in our country.
Finally, Secretary, I'm going to ask you a question that's a little different, but it perplexed some people, and I'd like to get your answer on it. You posted these images of you and your grandkids swimming in Rock Creek Park. There are warnings of high levels of bacteria, that the waters are contaminated, yet you jumped in. Why did you jump in and then dunk your entire body in there?
We weren't swimming in Rock Creek itself. We were swimming in one of the Rock Creek tributaries that, you know, I don't think think has those there certainly weren't any warnings. Those creeks belong to the American public. We have a right to use them for swimming, for fishing, and we should be concerned about people who are polluting them rather than people who want to exercise their rights.
Tom joins us now, and Secretary Kennedy's made a lot of headlines about his views on vaccines. What did he tell you about the measles vaccine?
Well, Lester, as you know, we faced one of the deadliest outbreaks in this country when it comes to measles. He told me that his agency is recommending the vaccine to prevent disease, but he also told me people should be able to make their own choices.
Okay, Tom, thanks very much. A woman who managed to sneak on a Delta Airlines plane last year was found guilty in federal court today. You can see 57-year-old Svetlana Dali on camera going through TSA and preparing to board the plane. She was convicted of being a stowaway on an aircraft and could be sentenced to 6 months in prison. We're also tracking a small plane's emergency landing in North Texas. This is the tense moment a Cessna 401 made a belly landing at Arlington's Municipal Airport. The pilot reported issues with landing gear and asked for foam on the runway. The plane appeared to work okay. The people on board walked away all fine. And a penny for your thoughts on this one. The Treasury Department saying that it made its last order of blank pennies this month as it plans to end production of 1-cent coins. The U.S. Mint will keep making pennies until it runs out of blank ones. President Trump ordered a halt to making new pennies earlier this year. When we come back, calling all barbecue lovers, feast your eyes on the world's very first barbecue museum. We'll take you on a taste tour and a dive into a beanball pit. Really? Next. With summer and barbecue season unofficially kicking off this weekend, there's good news tonight about a new museum paying homage to one of America's favorite foods. Here's Stephanie Gosk.
A plate of barbecue in this country isn't just a meal.
We have burnt ends, then we've got pulled pork.
It's a smoky, sticky mess of American culture.
Oh my God, that is so good.
And how it's served, dry, wet, spicy, sweet, tells a generations-old story of where you are.
I'm a food writer by trade who kind of fell in love with the story of barbecue.
Which is why Jonathan Bender thought barbecue needed more than a smoker and a hot grill. It needed a museum.
The people are truly the story of barbecue.
And Kansas City, a mecca for the beloved meats, was the perfect place. Just ask the guys at Joe's Barbecue.
I guarantee the way we cook brisket and burnt ends is different than anybody else.
But at the new museum, it is not all about Kansas City style.
You look between Columbia and Charleston, that's what's called the mustard belt.
There is a room dedicated to every region. There's even room for sides. Well, one side. Bender says he doesn't actually have loyalty to a particular style of barbecue.
You were born and raised here in Kansas City.
I'm not, actually. I'm originally
You're from
Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Which kind of makes him the perfect impartial observer, sharing his love with a century-old process.
They discovered that if you cook something for a low temperature for a long time, we call it low and slow, you can produce something sublime.
A museum, he says, was long overdue. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, Kansas City.
Looks good. That's nightly news for this Thursday. Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.